If you ever meet me, you'll probably find me rolling my eyes. It's not that I hate people. Well, maybe I do a little, but my patience has been worn so thin you could see through it. My name's Silas. I'm 32 years old and stuck running the family business. The name of the place? Petrov's Provisions. Sounds normal, right? That's the whole point. I grew up here in Ohio, though my family's roots are deep in Romania. My grandpa is the real deal, born and raised in the old country where every meal was a ritual and family meant everything. He came to the new land with big dreams, as they always say, but life had other plans. My dad got sick young, my mom wasn't in the picture, and so it fell on Grandpa and me to keep this store running. Now, Grandpa's in the back room most of the time, technically working, but he's in his 80s now. He mostly naps, plays cards with himself, and critiques my every move in that gruff Romanian way of his. Silas, why don't you clean the counters? They look like you served soup on them. Or, you call this stocking shelves? My blind cousin Ileana stock shelves better than this. You'd think I'd be used to it by now, but it still grates on me. Despite the griping, Grandpa's my rock. Always has been. Me? I'm snarky, sure, and my sarcasm could cut glass. Try being a Romanian-descended guy running a grocery store for the, let's just say, less-than-human clientele. It'll do things to your mood. See, this isn't your run-of-the-mill store. Sure, we have the basics like eggs, milk, and pasta. God forbid I run out of pasta. I'd hear it from the whole family, alive and dead. But our real bread and butter, catering to the supernatural. I'm talking about monsters. Yeah, you heard me right. Vampires, werewolves, banshees, shapeshifters, the occasional demon with a hankering for sulfur-flavored chewing gum, they all shop here. My family has been running this store for centuries, way before the new land was even a glimmer in anyone's eye. Back in Romania, it was a market stall. Here, it's a grocery store tucked between a dry cleaner and a diner that's been coming soon for as long as I can remember. I grew into this life, for better or worse. As a kid, I thought it was exciting, helping stock shelves with blood bags for less or arranging silver-free razors for our werewolf clientele. But the novelty wore off when I started realizing what it meant for my life. Explaining why you smell like garlic and brimstone after work doesn't exactly win you friends, let alone dates. I was the weird kid who didn't let anyone come over, who had that strange grandpa, and whose family was just a little too secretive about their business. High school was hell, let me tell you. But now, this is just my life. Monday through Saturday, I'm here from 9 to 9, dealing with everything from, do you carry ethically sourced moonstones, to, why are your ectoplasm jars always sticky? Sundays are technically my day off, but there's always some urgent issue that drags me back. Grandpa's too old to handle the crazier stuff, so it's all on me. Lucky me. I've got the hands of a worker, rough, calloused, and strong enough to haul a 20-pound sack of enchanted rice without breaking a sweat. I wear the same thing every day, jeans, a plain t-shirt, and a flannel shirt over it because the store's always freezing. No matter how much I crank the thermostat, there's always a draft. The customers like it that way, though. Cold keeps the undead fresher, apparently. I live in a tiny apartment above the store. It's nothing fancy, just a bed, a couch, and a kitchen that barely fits one person. My only real luxury is coffee. Good coffee. I grind my beans fresh every morning. Now that you know me, let's talk about the store. Petrov's Provisions isn't big, but it's packed floor to ceiling with shelves. The aisles are narrow, the lighting is dim. Monsters hate fluorescence. And there's a faint hum in the air from the enchanted refrigeration units. The sign outside says, open 24 hours, but that's a lie. We close at 9 p.m. sharp, no exceptions. I don't care if Dracula himself shows up 5 minutes late. He's waiting till morning. Behind the counter, there's a bell. Customers ring it when they need help, though I wish they wouldn't. Half the time, it's something stupid like, "Do you have this in a different shade of black?" The other half, it's a complaint. "This blood is too warm," or "These werewolf treats gave my pup gas." And then there are the ones who just want to chat. "Silas, you look tired. Been feeding on enough souls lately?" Haha, very funny. Grandpa's back room is off limits to everyone but family. It's where we keep the good stuff. Ancient relics, rare ingredients, and items that are too dangerous to put on the shelves. If a customer asks for something from back there, they'd better have the right credentials. Otherwise, they're getting a firm no. Running Petrov's Provisions is like starring in a sitcom where the laugh track is replaced with groans and the occasional snarl. Most days, the routine is predictable. Unlock the door, flip the closed sign to open, and brace myself for the day's parade of monsters. And no, I don't mean bad customers, though we've got plenty of those, too. My mornings start with a quick sweep through the store. The werewolves always leave fur everywhere, so I've got a lint roller in one hand and a broom in the other. Next, I check the shelves to make sure everything's stocked. We've got blood gummies in 3 flavors: cherry, raspberry, and O negative, gluten-free vampire crackers, and protein shakes for ghouls. The refrigerated section has everything from fresh animal organs to pre-packaged zombie snacks. And let's not forget the cleaning supplies, stuff like Fur Be Gone shampoo and Stain-Away silver-free detergent. By the time I finish, the regulars start trickling in. First through the door is always Miss Agnes, a banshee in her 60s who crochets little scarves for her cats. She doesn't scream anymore, not since she got a throat issue, but her voice still makes my ears ring. But she's nice, and she reminds me of my grandmother. Sometimes she even brings me cookies. "Good morning, Silas," she says, dragging her basket behind her. "Do you have any more of those licorice bones?" "Top shelf, aisle 2, I reply, without looking up from the inventory tablet. "Such a sweet boy," she croons, even though I'm ignoring her. Next up is a vampire in a tailored suit, slicked back hair, and an attitude that screams old money. He doesn't say much, just grabs 2 packs of blood gummies and a bottle of imported Essence of Twilight. Before he leaves, he gives me a look like he's appraising me for dinner. I shoot him a thumbs up. Then there's the werewolf pack. You can hear them before you see them. A group of 4 or 5 big guys with broad shoulders, loud voices, and more facial hair than a lumberjack convention. They're regulars, coming in every couple of days to stock up on meat snacks and specialty shampoos. Today, their leader, a guy named Victor, looks especially annoyed. Victor slams a bottle of Fur Be Gone shampoo onto the counter. "Silas, what the hell is this?" I glance at it. "Looks like shampoo, Victor. Did you forget how to read?" "This isn't the brand I use," he barks. "Where's the Lupocare line, man?" "You're always stocked with it." "Not anymore," I say flatly. "Discontinued." "Discontinued?" Victor's voice rises, and a couple of his packmates growl in agreement. "You can't just stop carrying something like that. My fur needs premium care, Silas." "It's Silas," I reply. "My name's Silas. You've been coming here for like 30 years. My name's Silas." "And your fur?" "Victor, it looks like you've been rolling in a dumpster. Maybe try this one. It's the same stuff, just a different label." "It's not the same," he snaps, jabbing a finger at me. "You don't get it. This is a werewolf thing." "Oh, I get it," I reply, leaning forward on the counter. "I've been selling you this stuff since you were a pup. You think I don't know shampoo? How dare you?" Trust me, Victor, I know shampoo. And you'll take what I give you, or you'll smell like wet dog all week. The other customers are starting to stare now, but I don't care. Victor growls, literally growls, and slams his fist on the counter. You're lucky I don't shift right here and rip this place apart. Yeah, big bad wolf, I say, waving him off. You gonna huff and puff too? Look, if you don't want the shampoo, don't buy it. No one's forcing you. Victor's face is turning red now. Well, redder. You know what? I'm going to talk to Boris about this. Now, let me explain something about my grandfather, Boris Petrov. He's not just my grandpa, he's a legend. To the monsters, he's like a mix of a stern patriarch and your trusted village elder. He knows everyone, and everyone respects him. When things get heated, invoking Grandpa's name is like pulling the emergency brake. I sigh, loud enough to make my point. You want to bother my 80-something-year-old grandfather because you don't like the shampoo? Fine, be my guest. Victor stomps toward the back room, but before he can get there, the door creaks open. And there he is, Boris Petrov, in all his glory. He's short and stooped, but still has this commanding presence. He's wearing a cardigan over his button-down shirt, a flat cap perched on his head, and slippers because he never wears shoes inside the store. Hey, what's all this yelling out of Hera? Grandpa asks. Grandpa, I start, but Victor cuts me off. Mr. Petrov, with all due respect, your grandson doesn't know how to run this place. He stopped carrying Lupocare shampoo. It's a disgrace. Grandpa stares at Victor for a long moment, then turns to me. Silas, why'd you stop carrying the shampoo? It was too expensive, Grandpa, I reply, crossing my arms. They jacked up the price, and no one was buying it. Plus, this new one's just as good. Grandpa nods slowly, then looks back at Victor. Victor, you come into my store, you shout, you disrespect my grandson, and for what? Shampoo? But Mr. Petrov, Grandpa holds up a hand, silencing him instantly. You want the other shampoo? Fine. You bring me the money up front, I'll order it for you. But until then, you use what we have, or you don't use anything. Capisci? Victor hesitates, his bravado deflating. Capisci, he mutters, grabbing the bottle off the counter. Grandpa gives him a hard stare. Now, go. And next time, remember who runs this place. Once Victor and his pack are gone, the store settles into its usual rhythm. Grandpa shuffles back to his room, muttering something in Romanian about kids these days. And I get back to ringing up customers. The Banshee lady buys her licorice bones, the vampire leaves with his gummies, and I even sell a jar of ghost jam to some guy with glowing red eyes. It's just another day at Petrov's. By the time the lunch rush is over, I'm already exhausted. But that's life here. Every day is a little chaotic, a little weird, and a lot frustrating. Tuesday mornings at Petrov's are what I like to call the calm before the storm. It's the one part of the week where I can pretend my life is normal. Grandpa's in the back, asleep in his recliner with a blanket over his legs, snoring just loud enough to hear. The store's quiet, aside from the soft hum of the refrigerators and the occasional creak of a shelf under too much weight. I'm at the register, feet up on the counter, flipping through the latest issue of Witch Weekly. Don't judge me. It's not my usual reading material, but it was sitting on the magazine rack, and I was bored. Plus, I find it hilarious. The articles are things like 10 spells to keep your broomstick sparkling and love potion recipes. What's safe, what's scary. There's even a quiz. Which famous witch are you? Apparently, I'm a Mildred the Meddlesome. Who knew? Just as I'm reading an advice column about handling hex-happy neighbors, the bell above the door jingles. My first customer of the day is a goblin in a pinstripe suit. carrying a briefcase that looks older than my grandpa. He nods at me as he walks in, heading straight for aisle 3. Goblins love aisle 3. It's where we keep the enchanted polishing cloths and anti-curse spray. 2 things they apparently can't live without. I go back to my magazine, but not even 5 minutes later, another customer walks in. This time, it's a pale woman in a black cloak, her eyes scanning the store like she's never been here before. "Excuse me," she says, approaching the counter. "Do you carry powdered grave moss?" "Yep. Aisle 7, second shelf from the top, right next to the dried nightshade," I reply, without looking up. "Oh, thank you," she says, shuffling off. I flip a page in Witch Weekly and keep reading, but it's not long before someone else comes in, a pair of trolls, both wearing tattered overalls. One of them picks up a basket while the other heads straight for the counter. "Hey, buddy," the troll says, scratching his bald head. "Where do you keep the troll butter?" I glance up from my magazine. Aisle 4, bottom shelf, left side. It's right next to the jars of fermented toadstool paste. "Got it," he says, lumbering off. By lunchtime, the store is bustling with activity. I don't know why Tuesdays are so popular, but it's like every supernatural being within a 100-mile radius decided today was grocery day. And of course, they all have questions. Where's the silver-free detergent? Aisle 6, middle shelf, next to the hypoallergenic wolf collars. Do you sell bottled ectoplasm? Aisle 2, third shelf from the bottom, right next to the spectral stain remover. I'm looking for cursed apples, the really good ones. Aisle 8, top shelf. They're in a black box labeled Premium Hexed Produce. No matter how obscure the item, I know exactly where it is. I could give directions blindfolded. It's not because I care about the store or the customers, mind you. I just have a really good memory. Always have. It's like my brain automatically catalogs everything the second I see it. Grandpa says it's a gift, but honestly, it feels more like a curse when you're constantly bombarded with questions. Around mid-afternoon, a vampire named Victor strolls in. He's one of our regulars, always, dressed like he's headed to a funeral. Today, he's wearing a long black coat with a blood-red scarf. Very dramatic. "Silas," he says, his voice smooth as silk. "Do you happen to have any more of that vintage plasma? The 1897 batch?" "Nope," I reply. "Sold the last bottle last week, but we've got the 1912 blend in stock. Aisle 5, second shelf from the bottom, next to the bottled Despair." Victor raises an eyebrow. "You remember every detail about every item in this store?" "Pretty much," I say, flipping another page in my magazine. "It's not that hard." He looks genuinely impressed. "How do you do it?" I shrug. "I've just got a good memory, always have. Ask me where anything is, and I can tell you down to the shelf number." Victor chuckles softly. "Fascinating. You'd make an excellent librarian." "Yeah, because that's my dream job," I say, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Organizing books for undead nerds all day. No thanks." Victor smirks and heads off to find his plasma. I go back to my magazine, but the moment of peace doesn't last. Another customer, a harpy this time, flaps up to the counter. "Do you sell feather conditioner?" she asks me. "Yep, aisle 3, top shelf, next to the talon polish," I say. By the time the afternoon rush dies down, I've answered so many questions, I feel like a walking store map. Grandpa's still asleep in the back, snoring like a freight train. The magazine is now crumpled from me, flipping through it too many times, and my patience is wearing thin. But that's just another Tuesday at Petrov's. It was a day like any other at Petrov's. Grandpa was in the back, dozing in his recliner with an old Romanian film playing on the tiny TV he'd rigged up. I was at the cash register, leaning against the counter and munching on a cannoli I'd swiped from the bakery box we keep in the employee fridge. Tuesdays might be busy, but Thursdays are slow. A few regulars coming in for their weekly essentials and the occasional new face who stumbles in by accident looking for normal groceries. They usually don't stay long. The bell above the door jingled, and in walked the first customer of the day, a werewolf named Boris. Not my grandpa, mind you, but a short, wiry guy with a scruffy beard and a perpetual twitch in his left eye. He nodded at me and headed straight for aisle 4, where we keep the meat snacks and wolf treats. Normal day. Nothing to see here. Then the door jingled again, and 2 vampires strolled in. They were young, or at least they looked young, probably barely out of their first century. They were dressed like extras from a Twilight movie, all leather jackets and dark sunglasses. They didn't even head for the shelves right away. Instead, they lingered near the entrance, whispering to each other in voices just loud enough for me to catch snippets. Can't believe he's back. After what he did. Dangerous. No self-control. Should have stayed banished. I rolled my eyes and took another bite of my cannoli. Monsters gossip worse than humans. I've learned to tune it out over the years, but every now and then, something grabs my attention. Today was shaping up to be one of those days. The vampires moved on to aisle 6, still muttering under their breath, but before I could forget about them, the door jingled again. This time, it was Ms. Agnes, our Banshee regular. She waved at me with her gnarled hand and headed straight for the licorice bones, her cane clicking against the tile floor. "I heard he was in town," she said, loudly to no one in particular. Such a shame. He's nothing but trouble. One of the vampires overheard her and replied, "Should have stayed where they sent him. Too dangerous to be around civilized people." They were still talking when the werewolf, Boris, came back to the counter with a basket full of snacks. He plopped it down and gave me a sheepish grin. "Crazy stuff, huh?" I blinked. "What crazy stuff?" "You know, about him," Boris said, lowering his voice like he was about to tell me the secret ingredient in Coca-Cola. I sighed and started scanning his items. "Boris, I've been here all morning. I don't know what you're talking about." Boris leaned in closer, his twitchy eye making him look like he was about to spill some serious beans. "You really haven't heard? The big guy, the one who got kicked out a few years back, he's back in town." I shrugged. "So?" Boris frowned, clearly unimpressed with my lack of interest. "So? He's dangerous, Silas. Real dangerous. You know how most of us have rules, right? Lines we don't cross? Well, this guy doesn't care about any of that. He does what he wants, and he's strong enough to get away with it." "Uh-huh," I said, sliding a pack of wolf jerky across the scanner. "And what's his deal? He steals someone's parking spot?" Boris shook. His head. "It's worse than that. Let's just say he's got a bad temper. Hurt a lot of people before. That's why they got rid of him in the first place. But now he's back, and everyone's scared." I nodded absently, only half listening as I bagged his items. I've heard this kind of talk before. Monsters love a good villain. Every few months, some rogue vampire or out-of-control werewolf becomes the talk of the town, and everyone acts like it's the end of the world. Usually, it blows over in a week or two. This guy was probably no different. As the day went on, the store got busier, and the gossip got louder. A group of witches in pointy hats came in around noon, chattering away like a flock of crows. Heard he took out an entire pack last time. No self-control, they say. Shouldn't even be allowed back. Too dangerous. Then a couple of ghouls wandered in, their hollow voices adding to the noise. If he comes around here, I'm not sticking around. Not worth the risk. By mid-afternoon, I couldn't ignore it anymore. Every single customer had something to say about this guy, though no one seemed to agree on the details. Some said he was a vampire, others swore he was a werewolf. A banshee claimed he was something else entirely. A hybrid, or a freak of nature. The only thing they all agreed on was that he was dangerous, stronger than most, meaner than most, and prone to lashing out. I didn't care much about monster politics, but I had to admit, this was starting to sound like more than the usual drama. Not that I'd ever let anyone know I was paying attention. It was almost closing time when a lone customer came up to the counter. He was tall, with broad shoulders, and a face that looked like it had seen its fair share of fights. His clothes were simple, jeans and a black t-shirt. But there was something about him that made me keep my guard up. He dropped a jar of cursed honey and a pack of spectral mints onto the counter and gave me a nod. "Evening," he said. "Evening," I replied, scanning his items. He leaned on the counter, his eyes casually drifting around the store. "Busy day?" "Always is," I said. "You know how it goes." He chuckled. "Yeah, I guess I do. Lot of talk in the air today, though." "You hear about the big guy?" I gave him a look. "You mean the guy everyone's been whispering about, like he's Voldemort?" The man laughed, a deep, gravelly sound. "That's the one. Folks are scared, and for good reason. He's not someone you want to cross paths with." I shrugged, sliding his items into a bag. "I don't plan on crossing paths with anyone. I just work here." The man nodded, his smile fading a little. "Smart. Real smart. But just in case, you might want to keep an eye out. He's got a way of showing up where you least expect him." "Noted," I said, handing him the bag. "Have a nice night." "You too," he said, giving me one last look before heading out the door. The bell jingled as he left, and I was alone again, the store finally quiet. I leaned back against the counter and stared at the door, wondering if today was the start of something big, or just another day at Petrov's. It was just past 9 o'clock when I locked the front doors to Petrov's. The day had been longer than usual, filled with too many questions, too much gossip, and far too little patience. Normally, I'd head upstairs to my tiny apartment, heat up some leftover pasta, and collapse on the couch. But tonight, something about all the chatter wouldn't leave me alone. The way everyone kept talking about this mysterious monster, their hushed tones and nervous glances, it was sticking in my head like a splinter. I had to know more. I walked to the back of the store where Grandpa was still snoozing in his recliner, the glow of the tiny TV casting flickering light over his weathered face. Some old black-and-white Romanian film was playing, the kind with dramatic music and way too much hand-waving. I stood there for a second, debating whether to let it go, but curiosity won out. "Grandpa," I said, giving the side of his chair a nudge. "Wake up." He stirred, blinking a few times, before fixing me with a bleary-eyed glare. "Silas, what do you want?" I was dreaming about Maya Morgenstern. "Charming," I said, crossing my arms. "Listen, I need to ask you something." He groaned, rubbing his face. "If it's about that damn espresso machine, I told you, it's busted." "No, it's not that, it's—" I hesitated, then plowed ahead. "Have you heard anything about some big monster being back in town? The customers wouldn't shut up about it today." That got his attention. Grandpa sat up straighter, his brow furrowing. "What monster?" "I don't know," I said, shrugging twice. "They didn't give a name, just said he's dangerous. Supposedly stronger than most, doesn't follow any rules, and has a bad habit of hurting people. A couple of them mentioned he was banished before. Ring any bells?" Grandpa's face darkened, the usual twinkle in his eye replaced by something I couldn't quite read. "You sure about this?" "Yeah," I said. "Practically everyone who came in today was talking about it. One guy even called him the big guy." "Sound familiar?" Grandpa didn't answer right away. Instead, he pushed himself out of the recliner with a grunt. and shuffled over to an old wooden cabinet in the corner of the room. I watched as he unlocked it with a small key from his pocket, his movements slow and deliberate. When he pulled out a thick, leather-bound book, I raised an eyebrow. "Is this story time now?" I asked, only half joking. He carried the book over to the table. He flipped it open, the brittle pages crackling as he searched for whatever he was looking for. When he finally stopped, he tapped a page with a gloved hand. He pointed and said one word: Minotaur. I leaned over the table to look. The page showed a detailed illustration of a massive creature, half man, half bull, with horns that curved like scythes and muscles that looked carved from stone. The text beside it was written in Romanian, but I could make out enough of the words to get the gist. Dangerous, violent, cunning. "What about him?" I asked. When I asked about the Minotaur, the answer wasn't what I expected. He was described as one of the first monsters my grandfather had ever encountered, back when he was just starting out in the family business. Apparently, this one was different. Most monsters have their quirks, but they follow certain rules and generally avoid trouble. The Minotaur? He didn't care. About monsters, about humans, about anything. I tried to downplay it. So, what? He was a bully? But it wasn't that simple. The way the story went, he was dangerous. Truly dangerous. Someone who hurt people, killed them, just because he could. Eventually, an alliance was formed between humans and monsters. They banished him and locked him away in a maze, of all things, somewhere a few counties over. A maze. I couldn't help the skepticism. What is this? Greek mythology? The response was sharp. Something about how myths don't come from nowhere, that the stories people tell are based on something real. The maze had been built to keep him contained, and for decades it had worked. But now, well, apparently, things had changed. Leaning back in my chair, I crossed my arms. "Come on, he can't be that bad. You're talking like he's some unstoppable force." That's when I saw the proof. The glove came off, revealing a hand that was missing 2 fingers, index and middle, to be exact. The scars were jagged and old, but there was no mistaking what they meant. "What happened to your hand?" I asked. The explanation was simple. The Minotaur. Apparently, someone had thought they could reason with him, calm him down. It hadn't gone well. It tore those fingers off like they were nothing. For once, I didn't know what to say. The story sounded insane, but the look in my grandfather's eyes and the scars on his hand made it hard to argue. Suddenly, all the chatter I'd heard earlier started to make sense. "So, what do we do?" I asked quietly. The answer wasn't what I expected. Nothing. It wasn't our fight anymore. If the Minotaur was really back, someone else would have to deal with him. I wanted to protest, but the conversation was shut down before I could. Stay out of it. The Minotaur wasn't something I wanted to mess with. I nodded, but doubt lingered. If this guy was really as dangerous as the story suggested, how long before he showed up at Petrov's? And if he did, what then? The room felt heavier after that. The only sound was the faint murmur of the TV in the background. My eyes dropped to the book in front of me, to the drawing of the Minotaur and the ominous words beneath it. For the first time, I felt a sliver of unease about what might be coming. The book was closed and locked away, along with the conversation. I was told to get some rest, that tomorrow was another day.